Hey, what's going on? It's Closer Nation. It's your boy, Ryan Stewman, the host of the Hardcore Closer podcast, and I'm glad that you're here. If you enjoy the material in this week's show, if you like what you hear, share it, hit it on YouTube, hit the like button, share it, 5-star review, all that good stuff. Anything you can do to help us get the word out, I would appreciate it. By the way, you're probably here because you work in sales. And listen, sales is a good skill to have, but a better skill to have is marketing. A better skill to have is lead generation. A better skill to have is the ability to get strangers to want to do business with you as opposed to you wanting to do business with strangers, right? When you understand the concept of inbound leads and it's being a numbers game, your income is infinite, because when you can generate your own leads and close your own sales, you become the most powerful entrepreneur, the most powerful salesperson, the most powerful money generating machine that you can when you master those two skills. Chances are you already know all about sales. You just hear it because you like the subject. You just hear because you think I'm going to say something that's going to get you more business, and I am. You need more leads. You don't necessarily need to get better at sales. You're probably great at sales. You're here. You're pushing yourself. You listen to this kind of material. You need to get better at generating leads. How do you do that? You go to phonesites.com/closer. Sign up for Phone Sites. Watch some of the free educational material that we have there that teaches you marketing and lead gen. You can take one of our phone sites that you can make with no skills, no website, no development, no coding, none of that technical shit needed. You go there, you use one of our templates. Within a matter of minutes, you can have your phone site up and running. You can post it on social media, generate leads, run ads to it, anything. It's that amazing, that simple. Within 10 minutes, you can have a landing page set up that collects leads, whether you know anything about technology or not. Just go to phonesites.com/closer. All right, so we're about to 2023. And I want to give you a list of books that you need to read next year. I am an avid reader. I mean, I am listening to Audible at all times. I am, when I wake up, I shouldn't say all times. That's a farce, right? When I wake up in the morning, I get in my truck, I go to the gym, I listen to Audible on the way to the gym, right? I'm listening to a book because I want to be educated first thing in the morning. I'm going to listen to music when I get in the gym, so I'm listening to some educational material. On the way to work, or if I'm dropping my kids off at school in the morning, I'm listening to a book. If I got a long road trip, I'm listening to a book. Every day I read 10 pages in a paperback book so I can actually touch and feel it. And so, you know, my life is I'm just one big learning sponge. I'm just soaking up every single thing that I can. So I've read, I don't know how many books. I don't want to lie to you and say hundreds and it be not enough, and say thousands and that's too many, but I have read a lot of books and have been an avid reader since 2004. So I damn near got 20 years of putting back, at least 10, 15 books a year. So we're talking about hundreds of books at a minimum. And I'm just talking about paperbacks, not counting all the audibles. So by the way, I don't get paid to say this, and this program's not supported by them, but you can go on audible.com, or you can actually go to Amazon and you can pay a fee. It's like $100 or something like that, maybe a $200, and you get unlimited Audible for the year. So, I listen to Audible books on 1.5 to 1.75 speed so that I can get through them quicker. And I buy the unlimited plan every year. And dude, I might read 30 or 40 books and on auto listen to 30 or 40 books. And if you think about that, like each book on Audible is about $20. So for every 5 books, you're spending $100 or so. So you go and you sign up for a plan where you get the unlimited and you can listen to 40 books. Man, you really are taking advantage of that system. So that's something that I do. I don't know how the hell to find that unlimited plan. I signed up for it years ago and it's worked out well. I assume that they still offer that. If they do, you should totally get that. And it renews every year. So, but what are some books that you should read and why? Well, let's start with 12 books, right? One a month. So January, the first book that you should read is Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. I know David Goggins has a new book out. I have not read it yet, so I'm sure it's amazing. It's called Never Finished, but Can't Hurt Me is one of the greatest mindset books ever. So David Goggins was on Joe Rogan's podcast the other day, and Joe Rogan asked him something, and he said, I wish I could quit, Joe. But I can't. I got people depending on me. I'm accountable to these people. I wish that I had an injury that ended me because then I could take a break, but I'm accountable to people. Every day I wake up and I'm like, fuck this. I've ran enough. I've proven myself. And then here's Jonathan in my DMs talking about how he beat cancer because he got into running because he read my book. He's like, I can't quit. And I'm just telling you, that's how important that book is. David's probably never asked for shit as far as followers, and probably never, and has 6 million or so followers on Instagram. I mean, the guy follows 0 people. Like, the guy is just like, when you read that book, it will change your life. And listen, we might go into some hard times. We might not go into some hard times in 2023. It may be better than this year. It may be worse than this year. So you need to do what David does, I know him personally, and callous your mind. You need to get your mind hard and get your mind right to go into any situation, right? And what David does is he talks about some of the hard settings that he's had to do in his lifetime, you know, going through Hell Week multiple times. You know, he talks about being African-American and having to swim and the struggles that he had there because of bone density, like all these things that he talks about that he overcomes. He teaches you the process and the just the thoughts to grab, like his cookie jar concept and everything else. It's absolutely amazing. So start the year off with Can't Hurt Me. Next thing is next February, your book needs to be You by E.T. Man, Eric Thomas is the most inspirational person on the planet. Like, I mean, nobody makes me more fired up. Like, there is no other voice in the world that when you hear it, you're like, oh shit, that's E.T. I mean, he is just, in this book, man, he really tells you a lot of the struggles that he went through growing up in Detroit and trying to figure his life out, right? With all these options, does he sell drugs? Does he stay active in the church? You know, he was talking about being homeless. And he walks you really through the thought processes and putting himself in the right situations that allowed him to become the -- motivational speaker on the planet. And man, I am telling you, it is a absolutely great book. March. By the time March rolls around, you need to read a book called The G Code that I wrote, all right? The G Code is a book about four places, 4 areas of your life that you need to continually win in every single day. You see, so many people, they say, oh, I want to make $1 million a year, or, you know, I want to lose 30 pounds, but they say, oh, you know, I'm going to lose 30 pounds, when, right? They say, oh, I'm going to make $1 million, when? Okay, so what the G Code does is it teaches you a very simple process that allows you to say you want to make $1 million a year. Cool, that's roughly $3,000 a day. Let's get it. You're going to hold yourself daily accountable because that's how you accomplish greatness. So the G Code's short for the code to greatness. So if you want to be the greatest version of yourself, there's a code that you can follow on this planet that holds yourself accountable to be that person and improve as that person 1% every day, 365% a year. G Code by Ryan Stewman is a great book, and the author is a cool motherfucker. I'm just saying, you know, I know him personally as well. In April, you need to read another friend of mine's book, Patrick Bet David. I've known Patrick for a few years. I've even attended like family functions together and stuff like that. So he's a great guy. I used to live here in Dallas. He's obviously bought he bought a hotel and turned it into a house, if I remember correctly, down there in Fort Lauderdale. So, and it was news that he just recently, somebody acquired his agency as well. So like PBD is the man. Like, this dude is like the entrepreneur of the Millennial Award, right? Like, he is the amazing dude that's got a real story, you know, comes over here, an immigrant from Iran, during the revolution times. His parents, he ends up becoming an American citizen, joins the army, or maybe not, I should say the military. I don't remember what branch he said. I know that insults people sometimes. Joins the military, you know, serves our country here in America, gets out, like just builds an insurance agency from scratch, and then literally just took 9 figures, and actually it may have been more than that, but just at a minimum 9 figures for a portion, not even the whole ass company. So PBD is the man. If you never heard of Patrick Bet David, you got to look him up. It's valuetainment and everything else. But his book, Your Next 5 Moves, is important because it gets you to think of the future. So many people, they're worried about their next move or their current move, or shit, even worse, the move they made in the past. That's the worst thing that you can worry about, is the move you made in the past, because it's the only one you can't undo. But so a lot of people, they don't understand the power of long-term thinking. What are my next 5 moves going to be? Right? Most people, they're, oh, I made a mistake over here last year, or when I was a kid, or blah, 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 in this relationship, and they never start visualizing the future. But here's the thing, when you're talking 5 steps ahead, most people are, again, living in the past. So think of how many light years you are of somebody when you're having a conversation with them and you've already got your next 5 moves in place. So that book is amazing. It's one of my all-time favorite entrepreneurial reads, whether you're struggling or whether you're having a hell of a year financially or anything. The next 5 moves is a way to think bigger. All right, for May, you need to read a book from another person that I know. Matter of fact, this person just gave me like one of the biggest compliments I think I've ever had in my life. But Tim Grover. Tim Grover is, he coached Michael Jordan. He coached LeBron James. He coached Kobe Bryant. And like the greatest basketball players and some of the greatest athletes have gone to him for mental and strength performance. Like Tim Grover's the man. He's got this theory that he teaches in the book Relentless. And if you haven't grabbed Relentless, if you haven't read it, like it is a great mindset book about winning. And he breaks things down into 3 areas. You've got the cooler, the closer, and the cleaner. And the cooler is just like your average ass person, right? The closer is somebody who's like, if they're an athlete, they're like the backup guy, like the Scottie Pippen, right? And then with the cooler, closer, and the cleaner, the cleaner is like Michael Jordan, and they got that, actually he got that from Michael Jordan because he said after Michael Jordan would whoop everybody's ass in basketball and practice and stay on everybody's ass, he'd go and grab a mop and a bucket and he would mop down the gym before he left. So he's like, that's a dude that not only put in the work, whipped everybody's ass, but cleaned the fucking place up before he left. So that's what it really shows you, like you might be listening to this going, oh yeah, I'm a cleaner, and you're going to read the book and realize that you're not. Most people are not. And so, but it is a great book. Well, I did a comedy skit one time at Cole Hatter's event, and Tim Grover was in the audience, and I didn't know it, but I knew Tim was speaking there, and I had met Tim through Ed Milet a couple times at different events that he'd done with Ed that I spoke at and attended over the years. Anyway, I did this comedy routine that I was a little drunk, and it was very off, but it was really fucking funny, right? And when I got off stage, Tim was the first person there, and he looked me in the eye, and he goes, you have fucking balls of steel. I like you. And I was like, man, if Tim Grover says I got balls of steel, like cling, cling, motherfucker, you know what I mean? Like it was a good-ass compliment. All right, for June, you got to read this book. It's a true story by Bradley Hope called $Billion Whale. This dude one time spent like $3 million on a party in Vegas. Like it was unreal. But this guy was like, shit, kind of like SBF, the FTX guy. He was like he was this dude that just had so much money, and he was running all these different financial scams against governments. Dude, it's one of the craziest books that I've ever read. And the thing is, it's a completely true story. But what the thing about that book is it really gets you to start thinking big. So that's kind of the theme here that we're working on people's mind for the following year. But it gets you to think big because the average person, let me give you an example. My sales guy gets a text the other day, and it says, hey, Zach, it's Ryan. I need you to go physically grab some Apple cards and take pictures of them and send them to me. And clearly it wasn't my phone number, right? Somebody's trying to scam them. Well, that's how like the average person thinks, right? This guy had figured out how to pull that same scam for billions of dollars on governments. And so if I'm not telling you to go read this book because it doesn't articulate the scams, but I am telling you that thinking bigger is probably the only thing separating you from where you want to go, from where you are right now. And hopefully this book will elevate your thinking level. All right, for July, especially if you're a business owner, entrepreneur, you need to read a book by Ben Horowitz called The Hard Thing About Hard Things. So man, Andreessen Horowitz is one of the top venture capitalist firms in existence. So Ben Horowitz started a Net Zero. You may have heard of that. They used to ship the AOL DVDs or CD-ROMs in the mail. If you were old enough to remember those days, my camera guys are kind of looking at me confused. But anyway, like they were a huge company, and Ben exited that for billions of dollars, started up Andreessen Horowitz, which is like, they are the place that if you can get them behind you as the VC fund, they are the place. And they're the cool guys in the business as well. I like this book because it talks to you about laying people off, shutting a business down, growing a business, making hard decisions inside of a business. And every chapter starts with a hip hop line, a quote from a hip hop song. So I really dig that too. But really this book, if you're managing people, if you're running a large organization, or if you plan to in the future, this book is really a masterclass on that. All right, for August, we're going to read Traction by Gino Wickman. And so Traction is a book that basically teaches you an operating system for your business, okay? So, the hard thing about hard things is going to teach you how to deal with people. The traction is going to teach you how to really set up a system that makes your business scalable. See, a lot of people in business, they hit a brick wall. You know, they hit what they call a glass ceiling or whatever the case, that they can't ever get through, because it's like, you know, when the scale is really in business is like adding people to service your customers and then adding more customers, right? And so many people, they have a hard time balancing that scale. And traction teaches you how to align with the right people and systems to get on that make that much easier, and gives you the ability to scale with clarity, because it's just one of the greatest business scaling books I've ever read, and you'll enjoy it as well. All right, for September, you got to read a book by Jay Prince. It's called The Art of Respect. And so Jay Prince, you may not have heard of him if you're not from Texas, but he discovered Lil Wayne. He discovered Drake. He discovered the Ghetto Boys. He discovered Scarface. He discovered a ton of Texas artists. He is a legend and an OG. And this book, Respect, I think everybody needs to read it, because a lot of people these days, they don't understand respect. You know, Jay Prince grows up in a time where respect is everything. You know, they didn't have a lot of money. They didn't have an enterprise that they could do. And so respect was all a man had, you know, and you earn respect in several ways: by keeping your word, by being a scrapper. You know, people respected you and feared you. You respect by the way that you carried yourself. You know, men could be the same size and stature, and one of them be completely disrespected and talked down to, while the other one's extremely respected. And it's not because either one of them's physically stronger. It's because of the way a person carries themselves, because of the way that a person communicates. So the book, The Art of Respect by Jay Prince, is not like your normal rap mogul where he's talking about all this famous stuff he did with all these celebrities. And there's bits and pieces of that in there. But the main thing is the long lost art of just showing respect for your fellow man and people that deserve it. All right, for October, you got to read a sales book, right? It's the end of the year, and if you're not fired up about sales, you're going to need to be. So one of my favorite sales books, The Way of the Wolf by Jordan Belfort. Jordan is, whether you agree with them, I know people have mixed emotions about Jordan. Really, people have mixed emotions about me and everybody else too, but whether you agree with the guy or not, that book is one of the greatest sales book on tonality. He actually gives you practical application, and I highly recommend listening to it more than reading it. Or listening to it as you read it, because you can actually listen to Jordan's tonality, and he will show you in real time how these things are working and why it affects people to make buying decisions. So fire yourself up for that end of the year sales push. Get on it with Way of the Wolf by Jordan Belfort. Okay, for November, we're going to read a book that's a little different than everything else that I have recommended, but I believe everybody should read this. A book by Stephen Kotler called Stealing Fire. I said that wrong. Nope, I said it right. Hey, Stephen Kotler, Stealing Fire. And man, it is a book that talks, so the concept of stealing fire was when man, in the Greek mythology, when man discovered fire, in the Greek mythology, it was stolen from the gods. Man crossed over to Mount Olympia, or Mount Olympus, whatever it is, and then crossed in and stole fire and brought it back for us, right? So the concept of this book is of talking about outliers that have went and stolen technology, they went and created technology and stole that fire and brought it back to us, and how you can unlock that inside yourself. They talk about psychedelics. They talk about all this really, and this is an older book, so they talk about some things that were taboo just 4 or 5 years ago, but that are pretty, not common thought these days, but more appreciated and regularly respected than they were just 5 years ago. But this book teaches you how to really tap into that thing to bring that fire back into man and that creativity. It's a great book, and it'll help spark some creativity for you. You got sales in October, creativity in November. What you got in December? In December, you need to read a book called The Example by my man Ryan Stewman. You know that guy? He's awesome, yeah. So The Example is like the continuation of the G Code, but The Example is really what we're looking for on this planet. Right now, we need examples. We need examples of somebody that's winning. We see examples all over the TV of people making bad decisions. You know, just a couple days, Gunna decided to snitch on people, so that he decided to snitch on his best friend that probably paid him millions of dollars because of what they did. Decided to snitch on him, right? That's not an example. They shouldn't have been doing that crap in the first place. We got these people making millions of dollars that we're putting up that are gangsters and drug dealers and all that. Like, we've got all these wrong examples in the public eye, and we have to step up as individuals and be the examples for our community. We got to be the examples for our kids. We got to be the examples for for our employees, for our clients. And what happens, a lot of people say, well, I want to be an example, but then they're an example of failure, or they're an example of bad choices, or they're an example of their circumstances. And this book teaches you how to be an example of the G code, how to be an example of someone that's respectable, like I was talking about with Jay Prince, how to have the right character, how to make the right decisions, how to think and hold yourself accountable in a public forum to where you will be the example for your kids. You will be the example in your circle. You will be the example, the influence the world needs. And the more examples we can get, the better this planet will be. So I'm inviting you to join me in becoming an example, because I'm committed to being one. So listen, at the end of the year, you got 12 books that you've read. First of all, most people don't read 12 books in their lifetime, right? So in 1 year, you have gotten light years ahead of 80 to 90% of the population. I just laid out some books that literally they're 5, 10, 15 maximum pages a day. You can read them and get through one a month very easily without having to stress yourself or anything else. Just stay consistent daily on it. And they're books that will help develop your mindset, help develop your skill set, and then help develop the things that you'll need in the future. So readers are leaders. I expect you to pick those 12 books up, tell Amazon I sent you, and rise above.